Thank you so much for having us. And hi to everyone watching. As Pierre mentioned, my name is Tobias. I am the CEO of Casino Grounds, and I'll be hosting this fireside chat today with iGaming Next. So as mentioned, the topic is video is the future, and is traditional affiliation dead? Together with me, I have Simon Hammon here with me. Shortly, I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. First off, again, I'm the CEO of Casino Grounds, and for those who don't know, Casino Grounds we're an affiliate company focusing on video. So we have a community built around video content, live streaming, streamers, so to say, and all of this. And we've been doing this since early 2016 and kind of built this community focusing around video. So that's why I'm here. And maybe you can give a quick introduction of yourself, Simon.
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. Simon Hammon from Chief Product Officer from Relax. I've been in the gaming industry about 10, 12 years now, mostly on the supplier side, which is a very different angle in terms of this conversation. I don't think suppliers have naturally been bedfellows within the affiliate arena, so to speak. So it's an interesting dynamic at the moment to see how we can work together. Ultimately, my job at Relax is to bring on new content, supply to market. We act as an aggregator as well, bringing top quality suppliers to the industry. So yeah, interesting topic for sure.
Great. Thank you so much. So as mentioned, the topic is kind of video is the future. And I wanted to kick off a bit talking a bit about sort of how I look at video and why I believe it's the future. So the big, if you kind of, when I look at opportunities, whatever it is, I tend to look at sort of similar concepts in other industries when we're talking gaming. And one thing I've been a big follower for about 10, 15 years now is esports. And when you look at esports, live streaming and video has been kind of a key component since day one. And I was very interested back in 2015 when I started seeing these first casino streamers coming online and building an audience there. And one of the first guys I was watching is a guy called Let's Give It a Spin. He's one of the co-founders of Casino Grounds. And something I quickly realized while watching this guy is that traditionally, the casino industry is a kind of not a high trust by default industry. And at that stage, I was very intrigued by actually having a person in the industry that I can directly kind of ask questions and relate to, and quickly realized this was a very efficient way of marketing a product or a service, so to say. So that's kind of how I got into it. And what I immediately started doing was that I wanted to look at kind of the statistics. And another trend or a user behavior change that I saw, which I found very sort of comparable, was the transition from desktop to mobile, where there was this one device, we can all say it kind of started with the first iPhone, that kind of changed the way we interact with content. Suddenly everyone had an entertainment device in their pocket, and from that, the whole kind of user experience and how the users engage with various content changed. And I started looking into sort of what is a similar kind of revolution, so to say, in gaming. And one thing I personally found extremely boring was this generic kind of text advertisements of casino. I had no idea who was behind it. And usually you can kind of see that the top 10 list on any or the average sort of SEO site was not necessarily based on the quality of the product, but rather kind of who paid the most for the placement. And what I found very interesting with the live streaming aspect of this was that you can actually see the product being used in practice. You can ask a person that had a lot of knowledge about the product directly, and this kind of made it very interesting. And I think if you look at, the internet as a whole, you will also see that I think it was about 2 years ago, where the sort of milestone that more than half of all internet traffic was consumed through mobile. And this was, the big change on the user behaviors. And I think if you're looking at video, this revolution is even faster. So you have expected in 2021 that somewhere around 75% of all internet traffic consumed will be video through Netflix, HBO, Disney Plus, all of these streaming services, YouTube, Twitch, and so on. So that's why I kind of found it very interesting to get into this niche and see what we can do with it. So it's been a really, really interesting journey. And I think everyone that's been following it from the beginning would agree that it's a new way of interacting with the players. And you as a supplier, until the sort of casino streamers came, there was not really any direct relationship between the supplier and the players. It always went through the operators somehow, that you had, special campaigns. So one of the things I'm a bit curious to understand a bit more from the supplier side is how did you guys kind of embrace this new opportunity?
I think it's, as I said before, suppliers never really looked at the affiliate channel as a natural marketing spend. All the efforts have always been directly to the operator, and naturally continue to be the large proportion of that direction. However, the market conditions have changed. We've seen a lot of regulation in the market, which has restricted bonus and acquisition potential. And from a pure supplier perspective, it's just exploded in the last 2 to 3 years, especially. 5-10 years ago, you may have 3 or 4 suppliers launching 1 or 2 games per month. Now you've got an operator that might launch games a month as an average. That raises the question of visibility, awareness of the product, feedback, changing consumer behavior and habits and things like that. So for sure, as the ROI has become less on many products and the competition has become much more fierce, you need to be able to engage the player in a new way. So of course, there are lots of different affiliates out there, in different ways, forums or traditional affiliates or streamers, and they all have value add in many different ways. We particularly embraced the streamer community because we are keen to get the player feedback fundamentally. As you mentioned before, most times you relied on the operator to give you that direct performance metric or stickiness or comparison. You always crave for the player behavior on it and the reaction. And this has opened up a whole new field for us. So we've actively working with streamers like yourself, but with others as well, and trying to not only build a product that the community likes, but also to learn from it, to get the feedback from it. And of course, this new arena is, I would suggest, more cost-effective for a supplier in terms of reaching the end player, but it's also more telling about what the player really wants. And I think there's a lot of suppliers out there who, enjoys making games, enjoys building games, but ultimately no supplier should be arrogant enough to think they know what the player wants. The player is changing. The way they consume the content is changing, and you have to be in tune with that. And that's something that we've actively embraced. So for us, it's really about trying to make sure that the players see the content, they see the potential of the content, which can take 100, 200, 300 spins, which they might not churn themselves. So they're reliant on the streamer community to play the game, see the feature, see the hit potential, see the mechanic, and to see what kind of engagement that brings. And that has a material impact on how we design content. But this is something that Relax specifically has really embraced.
I think that is very valuable insight. I think, sort of generally speaking, I look at myself as a player as well as working in the industry. I think everyone in casino grounds is players at a high level that are very keen enthusiasts of casino games in general. And I think one of the most interesting things, if I kind of analyze myself as a player, was that back in the days when, like you said, you had a few suppliers only releasing a few certain games, I think myself, I avoided the high volatile games because I didn't think you can get that high win, that 10,000x plus win. And I think the only time, one of my least favorite games was Dead or Alive, the original from NetEnt, because, I never got that wild line. But once I saw these videos coming up of people hitting the wild line, I started realizing, shit, this can happen. And suddenly I started leaning towards the more high volatile games. And I think the video content, actually seeing it happen, I think that is a large contributor to this.
I think undoubtedly the video community, the streamer community has actually shaped and changed the general direction of game design in the last 2 years. I think it's been fundamental in that change. And you're absolutely right. 3-4 years ago, most games were pitched at a low, medium variance. Trying to make sure that the entertainment value is there over a longer period of spins. But I think that the truth of the matter is, with increased competition, you need to be able to showcase high win potential quite quickly, and it needs to be there. And I think that the consumer has changed for that. They're searching for the big wins. They're searching for that big win potential. And naturally, that's had a leaning towards higher variance, higher volatility products. And you just a minor point, you mentioned there about the influence of a big win video, the influence of seeing that. You might not hit it yourself, but you know that the potential is there. When you see that potential, that has a proportionate impact on revenue ultimately. So this is an essential part of a supplier strategy, and to make sure that the players actually get to experience the love that's gone into it, to make that product. To get that potential to market and showcase that. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to hit it, but the potential is there, and you've seen the potential. And I think that's a huge dynamic now in creating content.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, some great examples of this is, when Dead or Alive 2 came out, everyone said, it's impossible to get a max win. And I think it took 7 days before somebody posted a video on our forum, which we confirmed. I think the same applied to Money Train 2 quite recently, that it was a matter of days, and
we had a 50,000x win potential. Of course, that is a life-changing sum of money, and it's not hidden. People are saying, how long is it going to take to hit? Is it going to be months? We had like 5 or 6 winners in the first week at 50,000x, and people seeing that showcases the potential of a product, and will only captivate the other streamer community, also the other affiliate media who pick up on it. So it creates buzz, it creates hype, and products need that these days. They need that to stand out from the crowd. They need to get that brand familiarity, player familiarity. Otherwise, dare I say, they're washed away from the casino lobbies within the first 2 to 3 days, because another 10 games have come along. So it's imperative that you produce the right content. Not every game, just because it's on a streamer, is going to succeed. I'm sure you guys have played lots of games and gone, this won't work for our player community. But if you have the right game that has the right potential, that can really showcase the engagement from the community, that can have a dramatic performance boost to the content. So
I feel one of the things I was very focused on with Casino Grounds, if you're going back 3 years or so, was that you had a few very large game providers that kind of dominated the space. And we were very strategic in the way that we avoided working with them, and would much rather work with these up and coming, small, risk willing game provider that was humble enough to listen to us and the community's feedback, and willing to develop games that kind of met the things we were looking for. And this was high volatile, high spike kind of game, extreme potential, all of this. And I think if you were to, take the top 5 most successful up-and-coming game providers, I think more or less all of them have a lot of respect for us, and we have a lot of respect for them as well, Relax Gaming included. And I think this is kind of the value and importance of listening to your customers, or listening to the players, and sort of be a bit risk willing and see if it works out. And I think a lot of the now.
I think just on that point, I think when you're, I've been part of a big supplier, right? And no disparaging comments there, but I mean, you can get very stuck in the way you think a game should be built. And when you are attached to a smaller supplier, an up-and-coming supplier, to try and establish your brand, you're willing to take more risk, you're willing to take more chances. And to do that, you have to listen to the community. You have to listen to the feedback. You have to listen to the forums. You have to listen to the top win boards and the streamer community, and see what's resonating, see what's happening. And you have to be willing to adapt. And I think that is what's making suppliers be successful at the moment, is who is willing to adapt versus those who are willing to just be stuck in the way they've always done things. Yeah. And I like to think we're one of those, and obviously that's why we work quite closely with Grounds in that sense, especially on the upcoming project.
I think on the notes on the upcoming project, I think it's fair to say that, you know, when it comes to game providers working directly with affiliation, it's worth to mention that Casino Grounds and Relax Gaming actually went together about a year ago at this point, started the discussion to see how can, you know, Casino Grounds and its community take all our feedback, all our experience, you know, all our dreams, and compile it into a slot machine. And Relax Gaming approached us very humble, trying to help us, you know, materialize that vision into an actual product. And it was just announced our game Iron Bank that will be launching sometime later this year. And I think this is, you know, one of the absolute clearest examples on how you know, you're breaking down the barrier between the actual players and the companies making the products they love and use a lot. So it's super cool kind of that we reached this level, and I think Relax is one of the great examples of these game providers really, you know, listening and experimenting and taking it to the next step.
I think, I mean, it's a great project to be part of, but it's also, you know, it's a strategic one in many respects as well. I mean, you have to be able to put your visions of game design to the side, although you've got a lot of experience of what you're doing. A game designer that doesn't listen to the community is basically going to fail, especially with how quickly it changes. So, and look at the Twitch community, the video streaming community. It's what, 3,500 streamers, has 100% growth year on year. I mean, it's a massively growing community in that sense. So, to take the guy's vision and to listen to the players and to try and to develop something that marries that, you know, we're very excited about. And we all learn a lot from it as well. And this is part and parcel of changing the way you approach as a supplier, and also how you change your marketing approach as a supplier. Yeah. It's a great exploratory project for both of us, and I think hopefully for the market.
I think also sort of going, you know, combining what we just discussed and also talking about, is traditional affiliation dead? Well, I don't think so, not yet. I do think it will be in, you know, 5-10 years. I think that how consumers interact with anything will change drastically, but I think it will take a lot of time. So at this point, no, I don't think it's dead right now. You know, it's definitely isn't. There's huge companies much bigger than us that are doing really well. But I do think as, you know, technology advances, as the consumer behavior changes, I think slowly we will move towards, you know, faster moving content, easier to consume, faster, quicker. If you look at, you know, if you go back to internet in 2005, a lot of people, you know, would think a 12-minute YouTube video was a short video. If you look at 2020, if you see a 12-minute YouTube video and you're not really sure if you're interested in the content, you will not watch it. So I think, you know, it's a gradual process, but I think we're definitely moving towards video definitely dominating this. And yeah, it's things are moving fast, and I think it's very interesting to see kind of where how it will end up.
Completely agree. It's very good.
So I think we're closing in at the end of our time here. I'm not sure. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat. Pierre, maybe you can help me here.
Yes, we have a question actually. There is a question from Brian Upton, a good friend, former NetHunt. He's asking,
hi, Brian.
He's asking, what data do affiliates like Casino Grounds have to support that streamers represent all or the large majority of players and indeed the mass market players. That would go a long way to get buy-in from the skeptics of the industry, which I think there are still many.
So this is, it's very hard to measure these kind of things, to measure our impact even. When we do a promo, it's hard to differentiate. Is the success of the game, how important are our efforts in this relation? I think the closest thing we've done is that we took a game that's been online for about 6 years. It doesn't have any promotional tool whatsoever. And we did a promotion with that particular game. And the provider took the 7-day global average before the promo, and then they took the average, the global average, the 7 days after the promo. And this is a highly respected old school, one of the classics online that's been there from the beginning. And we saw, I believe it was around 430% increase on the global activity here. So I think our reach is way more significant than most would think. Looking only at our YouTube channel, we're reaching about 500,000 unique viewers per month. So, and we're not pushing it, we're not paying for any marketing. These are people actively searching for casino related content. When it comes to, if the question is more about how do we know if the feedback from our community is representative for the total, it's not. I would say at this stage, our community is people that have actively searched for casino-related content, are spending a significant amount of time per week consuming this content. So they would fall into the above average interested. So there will still be room for the more casual players that don't want the high volatile games. They prefer to get, as many hours of entertainment from their 50-euro deposit as possible. But I do think, the above average player, I think the feedback we have and the data we have is fairly accurate if you want to, cater to those players.
There's also there's a couple of companies now that are actually drilling down onto Twitch numbers, streamer numbers in a very creative way. And once you marry that up with the suppliers' numbers, you can actually see a very heavy direct correlation between the streamer community and the performance and the player numbers. So whilst Tobias is right, it's not a generalized, this is the community, this is the market. You can actually see a very strong correlation. And we've been working quite heavily to try and bridge that gap between the Twitch data, community data, and the supplier data to marry up what lessons can be learned. So I think it's pretty accurately reflected in many respects.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys. There are a couple of more comments and questions in the chat. So when you leave this stream, I urge you to go into the chat and you can answer perhaps those comments there. The chat is active and alive, so check it out, guys, if you don't mind. Guys, thank you so much for the interesting panel. Really nice to have you here. To close it off, Simon, what's your favorite slot game outside of relax gaming?
Oh, that's a nasty one. I'm gonna say
you can leave the chat before you answer.
That's a good question. Listen, I would always have a personal affiliation with an old NetZone game called South Park. Okay. That's because it was a bit of a passion project for me and a very special one from that sense. So I'll give that one.
South Park.
But it's Money Train 2 now.
Yeah, I know. That's the wrong. That's you're not allowed to say that. Great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Big a pleasure.